Andrea, can you tell me your full and complete name?
Andrea Yates,
And how old are you?
36,
And what's your home address?
942 Beachcomber, Houston, Texas, 77062.
Okay. And you and I have been talking for a while, right?
Yes,
You understand your rights?
yes,
Okay, I'm going to read them to you again for the purposes of this recording, okay?
okay,
And you have a right to remain silent, not to make any statement at all, and that any statement you make may be used against you and probably will be used against you at your trial. Do you understand that?
What you just watched in the clip are images recreated from the case of Andrea Yates. Her bewildered face and soulless eyes easily lead us to think of a fragile woman. However, in reality, she is the murderer who killed her 5 children, whom she gave birth to. Even today, more than 20 years later, the case of Andrea Yates remains one of the most controversial cases in American history and is compared in severity to other cases such as the Charles Manson case or the Branch Davidians case. In today's video, we will analyze what made an ordinary woman commit such a horrific crime. I am Shannon 8X. Welcome to Cold Case Killers. Andrea Pia Yates was born on July 2, 1964, in Houston, Texas. Excelling academically and socially at Milby High School, she emerged as the class valedictorian, an esteemed member of the National Honor Society, and the captain of the swim team. Despite her achievements, Andrea faced her own battles with an eating disorder and thoughts of suicide, hinting at the complexities beneath her accomplished surface. In college, a significant encounter unfolded when Russell Yates met Michael Warrenecki, a minister unaffiliated with any church, who preached a fanatical version of morality born of extreme conviction. This encounter would later echo in the tragic events that unfolded, as the ideologies Russell absorbed from Warrenecki deeply influenced the Yates family life. For those who may not know, religious extremism is a form of extremism related to the interpretation and practice of religious teachings in an extremely harsh and uncompromising manner. Those who follow religious extremism often believe they are adhering to the only correct understanding of their faith, sometimes to the extent that they are willing to use violence or other extreme actions to promote or protect their beliefs. Religious extremism can manifest within various religions and is not limited to any specific one. It may include actions such as violence or terrorism carried out to promote a specific religious viewpoint or goal, extreme application of religious rules to oneself and others, to the extent of denying personal freedom or leading to discrimination and exclusion of those who do not comply with these regulations, rejection and resistance against different values, beliefs, or religious practices, even to the point of accepting the use of violence to counter these. Religious extremism is often fueled by a misunderstanding or distortion of religious teachings and can be used by groups or individuals to justify their actions, even though these actions may completely contradict the fundamental teachings of the religion they claim to follow. Returning to the story, despite the signs of instability during childhood and student years, but afterwards, Andrea Yates graduated from the University of Texas School of Nursing in 1986. In 1989, while working as a registered nurse, she met Russell Yates. They were both 25 years old and deeply religious when they moved in together and got married on April 17, 1993. In 1997, the Yates family resided in a camper van purchased from Warrenecki, and Andrea began homeschooling her children in a 38-foot mobile house. In addition, she was experiencing more severe episodes of postpartum depression. In 1999, following the birth of her son Luke, she was prescribed trazodone. Then on June 17th that year, Andrea purposefully overdosed on the antidepressant, resulting in a 10-day coma. and on July 20th, following her discharge from the hospital, Russell discovered her with a knife to her throat and pleading to die. It was from this moment on that Andrea Yates began to exhibit unusual behaviors, signaling that something very bad was about to happen. Social worker Norma Tariak detailed her observations of Andrea Yates, noting her reluctance or inability to pinpoint any recent life stressors, painting a picture of a woman disconnected from her own turmoil. Rusty Yates, her husband, recognized his wife's struggles, but preferred to categorize her condition as postpartum depression, a term he found more palatable than major depression. Rusty also expressed concern over Andrea's spiritual turmoil, particularly her battles with understanding salvation, a concept that seemed to weigh heavily on her. Tariak was particularly alarmed by the unconventional living conditions of the Yates family. She documented, the family, consisting of the couple and their 4 children, resides in a cramped, converted bus. This detail, alongside Rusty allowing their 3.5-year-old son to use a power drill, prompted Tariak to contact Texas's Child Protective Services, CPS, on June 23rd, voicing concerns over the safety and well-being of the children due to these living arrangements. A week later, Dan Wilbur, a supervisor at CPS, acknowledged Tariak's report, appreciating her vigilance but concluding that the situation did not seem to pose a significant risk of abuse or neglect. Thus, no further action was planned. The communication also mentioned that the issue had been referred to the Houston Police Department for their consideration, given their jurisdiction over such matters. Tariak, understanding the potential significance of her observations, annotated the CPS correspondence with a note emphasizing the importance of including this information in Andrea Yates' medical record. Regrettably, this crucial piece of documentation remained overlooked until after the tragic events unfolded, highlighting a missed opportunity for intervention. Dr. Flack recorded in his notes, conducted another interview with the patient this morning and had a lengthy discussion with her husband. They're advocating for her discharge into family care, committing to provide 24/7 supervision, acknowledging her self-harm risks. However, Dr. Flack later disclosed a troubling constraint. Andrea Yates was to be discharged not due to a consensus on her readiness, but because of insurance limitations after a mere week's stay in the hospital. He observed signs of what he termed delusional guilt in Andrea's behavior. Addressing her ongoing treatment, Dr. Flack decided to increase the dosage of her antidepressant, Zoloft, to 150 milligrams daily, a standard therapeutic level. He also arranged for her follow-up care, referring her to outpatient therapy under the guidance of Dr. Eileen Starbrank before proceeding with her discharge. This decision, made under the shadow of insurance constraints, marked a critical juncture in Andrea's journey, emphasizing the complex interplay between healthcare decisions, insurance policies, and patient well-being. In a distressing turn of events, Andrea Yates faced a dire moment of crisis, attempting to end her own life by slitting her throat. Her husband, Rusty, intervened in time, preventing a tragedy. Following this harrowing episode, Andrea was urgently admitted to Memorial Springs Shadows Glen Hospital. It became apparent that her adherence to prescribed medication, including Zoloft, was sporadic at best. Complicating matters, Andrea had discarded her Zyprexa, an antipsychotic prescribed by Dr. Starbranch, upon realizing its nature, highlighting her deep aversion to such treatments. Hospital psychologist James P. Thompson captured Andrea's profound fear and confusion during her hospital stay. She confessed to battling intrusive thoughts of harm and voiced hallucinations, underscoring a tumultuous inner world fraught with guilt and apprehension about her capacity as a mother. Despite her struggles, a moment of clarity emerged as she expressed her enduring love for her family. The diagnosis of major depressive disorder, severe single episode, was made by Dr. James Flack upon her transfer to the psychiatric unit of Methodist Hospital, signifying the onset of an escalating mental health crisis. It was evident that Andrea was grappling with postpartum psychosis, a condition far more severe than postpartum depression or the common baby blues, affecting a stark minority of new mothers, but with potentially catastrophic consequences. Electroshock therapy was suggested as a treatment path by psychiatrist Dr. Arturo Rios, yet both Andrea and Rusty were resistant to this approach. Instead, Andrea commenced a regimen of antipsychotic injections alongside Effexor and Wellbutrin, to which she slowly began to respond. Throughout this ordeal, Rusty's unwavering support was evident. His regular visits, adorned with gestures of care and concern, painted a picture of a husband striving to navigate the complexities of mental illness alongside his wife. The family's dynamics and treatment approaches underwent continuous adjustments, including a transition to a partial hospitalization program, PHP, that allowed Andrea to spend nights at home, a home that had now shifted to a more traditional setting in Clear Lake, Texas, in Rusty's hope of fostering a better healing environment. Rusty's decision to purchase a home was influenced by Andrea's health struggles, a move that was later met with her appreciation. This period also saw Rusty engaging in creating a nurturing space for their children, highlighting his dual role as a caregiver and a father. Dr. Starbranch's guidance remained a pivotal aspect of Andrea's treatment, emphasizing the importance of medication adherence, a challenge given Andrea's reluctance and the couple's aspirations for more children. The family's unique lifestyle choices, including their connection with itinerant preacher Michael Warnecki, underscored their non-traditional approach to faith and family life, opting for homeschooling and eschewing conventional religious affiliations. As the Yates navigated Andrea's mental health journey, the complexity of their situation was further compounded by their unconventional living arrangements and Rusty's dedication to family Bible studies. Despite occasional moments of stability, Andrea's battle with her condition presented a continuous challenge, marked by fluctuations in medication adherence and the persistent threat of relapse, underscoring the intricate and ongoing struggle with severe mental illness within the family dynamic. Andrea Yates found herself in a daunting battle with psychosis, a battle that intensified after a year without medication and was exacerbated by the birth of her daughter, Mary. The situation grew dire 3 months later when Andrea's father, whom she had tenderly cared for through his 7-year struggle with Alzheimer's, passed away. Her mental state took a drastic turn for the worse. She became inseparable from baby Mary, driven by an overwhelming fear to never let her go, ceasing to eat, drink, or communicate. Recognizing the severity of her condition, her husband urgently sought help from Devereaux Hospital in League City, Texas, fearing Andrea could not withstand another day in their home under such distress. The urgency of Andrea's condition prompted Dr. Mohammed A. Saeed and Dr. Patricia Cork to seek immediate intervention from the Galveston County Probate Court for her commitment to Austin State Hospital. They identified her as a significant risk to herself and incapable of making informed decisions about her treatment, though they did not perceive her as a threat to others, a critical oversight in light of subsequent events. Throughout her prolonged struggle with severe depression, no one in Andrea's life, be it family, friends, or the numerous healthcare professionals, ever foresaw her as a danger to her children. The heartfelt Father's Day cards, homemade costumes, and Valentines, filled with promises of hugs and kisses she crafted for her children, stood in stark contrast to the tragic outcome. It was a commonly held belief among those who knew her that a profound loss of sanity must have occurred for her to commit such an act. Faced with the possibility of state hospitalization, Rusty opted instead for Andrea to voluntarily admit herself to Devereaux, a decision influenced by the limitations of their health insurance coverage. After a brief 12-day stay, she was once again discharged to the care of her family. However, her condition quickly deteriorated, leading to another hospital admission weeks later. Described by Dr. Saeed as nearly catatonic, Andrea was unresponsive, prompting a decision to reintroduce Haldol at Rusty's behest, marking another chapter in her relentless fight against mental illness. In the somber weeks leading up to a tragic event that would captivate the nation, Andrea Yates was released from the hospital after a stint that included 10 days of inpatient care followed by a week of partial hospitalization. A critical decision emerged 2 weeks before the unfathomable occurred. Dr. Saeed discontinued Andrea's medication, Haldol, a detail he later shared during her grand jury hearing, but refrained from discussing publicly. Amidst the legal proceedings, Andrea's brother, Brian Kennedy, shared his personal turmoil and familial distress, casting a critical eye on Rusty Yates's courtroom demeanor. "I couldn't stand by passively in court if it were my partner," he expressed, reflecting on the profound disconnect he felt when looking into Andrea's eyes shortly before the tragedy, a gaze he described as hauntingly familiar. Brian's candid revelations about his own battles with bipolar disorder and the broader family's history of mental health challenges and substance abuse paint a poignant picture of a family grappling with complex intergenerational issues. The weight of such struggles was compounded for their matriarch, Jutta Corinne Kennedy, who, having endured the horrors of World War II, faced unimaginable loss within a mere 6 months. Her husband, 5 grandchildren, and the unimaginable actions of her daughter. By the time of the devastating incident, Andrea was ensnared in a delusional belief that Satan had possessed her and doomed her children, a belief so intense that she envisioned their deaths as a passage to paradise. Her twisted hope for redemption lay in a misperception of George W. Bush's authority and the expectation of her execution by the state, seeking in death the salvation she felt she could not achieve in life. Andrea Pia Yates, age 37, received a formal life sentence for the tragic drowning of 3 out of her 5 children. The court ruled that she would be ineligible for parole for a period of 40 years. The tragic case of Andrea Yates, who took the lives of her children, is deeply rooted in her battle with severe mental health issues. Diagnosed with debilitating conditions such as severe postpartum depression and schizophrenia, Yates had engaged in numerous mental health treatments leading up to the incident. Alarmingly, she had previously expressed to healthcare professionals her suicidal ideations and thoughts of harming her children. Postpartum depression, a profound mental disorder arising after childbirth, significantly disrupts a mother's emotional state and behavior. Far beyond the typical postpartum baby blues characterized by mild sadness or exhaustion, this severe form of depression can drastically hinder a mother's capacity to care for herself and her offspring. The symptoms are severe and varied, including persistent sadness, hopelessness, or emptiness, a loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities, unexplained frequent crying, overwhelming anxiety or restlessness, sleep disturbances, extreme fatigue, significant changes in weight or appetite, persistent feelings of worthlessness or guilt, difficulty focusing, and harboring thoughts of death or suicide. Without appropriate treatment, the impact of postpartum depression can extend far beyond the mother, affecting the newborn's development and well-being and significantly diminishing the mother's quality of life. In the harrowing narrative of Andrea Yates, this condition was a recurring battle. She faced it 5 times, leaving her with no opportunity for physical or emotional recovery. During her legal trial, Yates's defense highlighted her compromised mental state, advocating for a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. They emphasized that Yates was under the delusional belief that she was acting upon satanic directives, convinced that murdering her children was the only means to save them from damnation. Further scrutiny into Yates's mental health revealed indications of not only postpartum depression, but possibly postpartum psychosis as well, suggesting a more complex and severe spectrum of psychiatric disturbances. The second reason many believe significantly contributed to Andrea Yates's motive for her crime is the lack of attention from her husband, Russell Yates. It is widely acknowledged that the role of a husband is crucial for a woman after childbirth, significantly impacting the mother's recovery process as well as the development and happiness of the baby. However, it appears that Russell Yates neglected this aspect and the health condition of Andrea Yates. Despite repeated warnings from doctors about the risks of having more children, he still decided to have a fifth child. He blindly believed that having more children would bring happiness, failing to recognize that his wife's health was deteriorating. Moreover, after the birth of the fifth child, Russell Yates was repeatedly warned by doctors not to leave Andrea alone at home with the 5 children. Some documents even suggest that Russell might have anticipated the crime, but seemed powerless to prevent it, or perhaps resigned to its inevitability. Had Russell Yates been more attentive to his wife, perhaps the tragedy could have been averted. Besides these 2 reasons, another factor contributing to the crime was the religious extremism Andrea Yates encountered while she was a college student. Since her transfer to Kerrville State Hospital, a psychiatric facility in Kerrville, Texas, in January 2007, Andrea Yates has lived under the care of mental health professionals. Despite the passage of more than 15 years and the opportunity for an annual competency review to potentially leave the facility, Yates, now 57, chooses to forego this review each year. People magazine confirms that she has consistently opted out of the review process, preferring to continue her treatment regimen, the specifics of which remain confidential. The tragic narrative of Andrea Yates brings to light vital lessons on the criticality of acknowledging and addressing mental health issues. Her ordeal with severe postpartum depression and other mental health challenges underscores the imperative for prompt recognition and intervention in such cases. The case poignantly illustrates how insufficient support from spouses in the broader community can intensify the difficulties experienced by individuals suffering from mental illness. Moreover, it exposes the peril inherent in the discontinuation or non-compliance with treatment, often due to insurance constraints or lack of accurate information, highlighting the necessity for a collaborative effort between patients, their families, and healthcare providers to ensure sustained and effective treatment. Additionally, Yates's case ignited a discussion regarding the legal system's approach to dealing with individuals afflicted with severe mental health conditions, seeking a balance between ensuring public safety and providing equitable care and treatment for the mentally ill. It also emphasizes the significance of mental health education within communities, promoting the recognition of early warning signs and encouraging the pursuit of timely help. Ultimately, the Andrea Yates case serves as a profound reminder of the complexity surrounding mental health and the critical need for comprehensive support, understanding, and early intervention to protect both individuals suffering from mental health conditions and the society at large. Don't forget, I'm Shannon 8X, and thank you so much for watching till the end of the video.